Hello, welcome to HR Garage. I am Henry. So, in the last episode, we got this exhaust manifold to fit, which is the last kind of thing in the engine bay, apart from all the wires and stuff, that I needed to do before I could take the engine back out and start fixing all this kind of holes and bits that I've made or cut to get the engine to fit. So, yeah, if you've not been following, we've got this Jaguar V6 3-litre engine in this MGB. That was after I've restored the whole car, floor pan, sills, everything, as well as upgrading all the suspension, brakes, differentials and stuff. So this is going to be a proper beast when it's done, but there's still quite a lot of work to do. So yeah, need to get this engine out, start fixing all these holes, as well as make a little bracket for the steering column inside the car. Probably do that before we take the engine out, actually, because we've lowered the steering column to clear the manifold. So I don't know what else to say really, other than let's just get cracking with all this kind of fabrication work that I need to do. So welcome to the inside of the car. There is the steering column, and you can see it's lower down than the bracket goes to. So there's adjustment slots on the bracket, but I've done it lower than that to get the angle right so that the steering column can kind of run underneath the exhaust manifold. So I need to drill a hole through that bracket for a new bolt. So once I've drilled the hole, I'm going to have to weld a washer or something in place there. Right, about an hour or so later, and with some great difficulty and pain, I've managed to get that little bracket that holds the steering column into the car near the bulkhead out of the car. What a pain. I needed to do that and get it out because I just couldn't get down in there to weld what I needed to do. So I had to release some bolts from the top of the engine bay, just there. So I've now got that in the vise, which is much easier. You can see how I tried to do it whilst it's in the car, just not going to work. So I'm going to cut flat off here and off there, just the top of that bit there. And then I'm going to weld a washer so that it sits further in like that. That's the plan anyway. So cut that flush and then get on with it. Right, there we go, they're all cut off. Got my little washer clamped in place. We'll put some weld on the front here just to tack it, and on the back there, and then we'll remove the clamp and we'll weld it all the way as much as possible, hopefully bridging that gap there a little bit as well, and then we'll grind it all flat. I'll do the same to this side. So let's do that now. Right then, that little part is drying. So I don't think I should waste any time. I think I should just crack on and get the engine out. Now that it's actually in place, it's going to be a little bit more tricky than it was before. I've got to go under the car and undo the gearbox mount. I've got to undo the engine mounts. Before I do that, I've got to have it strapped up so that it's taking the weight. So that the crane's taking the weight. I'll get my words out eventually, don't worry. I'm going to try and lift the engine out with the driver's side exhaust manifold still on. If I don't, I'll have to take all the steering rack and everything back off again to get the manifold off. I want to try and see if I can get it in and out with that driver's side manifold on, so that it just saves loads of time in the future, because that's going to have to come in and out a few more times after this. I'll show you what I mean. So I want to try and keep this manifold on, hopefully when I lift the engine up, and that way it'll clear everything. I don't know, it's a bit of a risk. Maybe even just lifting it up a bit will allow me to get access to the bolts and slide it off without having to take the steering rack off. Obviously the steering rack's like in place but not connected to the actual column inside the car, because Obviously, I'm making that bracket that's dried in the vise. So let me get the engine hoist in. I'm going to move some stuff out of the way. And then, yeah, we will see. We'll get it all strapped up. And we'll see if we can hoik it out. All right, I've got the straps back on. Very difficult. I'm going to undo the engine mount. So I'm going to have to get under the car, get my hand through that manifold, which is great. Slightly easier on this side because the manifold's off. I can just undo that mount there. And underneath the car, I've got to undo those bolts there on either side. So they shouldn't be too bad. So to watch that the gearbox doesn't crash to the ground. I've got the weight on this. So if you've watched any other episodes, you've seen me take this out loads of times. So I'm just going to get it out and then we will look at the engine bay. Right, the engine is out once again. It is over there on the engine hoist. Yeah, so we can start doing some fabrication here. I've been tidying up some of the wiring. I've taken the overdrive wires out, unhooked some clips and stuff. I think I still need one of these to hook up to a reverse switch, but I can figure all the wiring out later. That's a whole nother brain kind of fuzz that's going on. I have printed out loads of wiring diagrams and stuff, but it's not my forte. So I'm just going to slowly work through that, I think, on my own time. But yeah, let's try and get in this welding bay. I'm going to beef up these engine mounts a little bit, the ones on the engine and the ones in the car. And then we can start just plugging all these holes up, really. The front cross member I'm going to leave till last because that's going to be the most complicated. I want to really strengthen that up somehow. I've not decided what yet. I need to clean up where the exhausts are going to come through. So obviously there's a hole already on the driver's side. I need to cut that hole on the passenger side. And then I want to strengthen up just around, almost put like a picture frame around the holes just to strengthen that kind of gap up. And then, yeah, we'll just start kind of going through it all and trying to make it stronger, basically. I think the first thing is going to be cleaning up all the welding surfaces. So I'm going to get in here with my little belt grinder. So I've got a new belt grinder. It's attached to my compressor now. It's smaller, gets into like the nooks and crannies a little bit better. So I'm going to get in there and clean up as much as I can, basically. Dirty work in there. That engine bay is pretty much kind of ready for the welding. I need to clean up more bits when it comes to the actual kind of prep and painting and stuff, but I'm not worried about that yet. I'm going to have to come in here with a flapper disc or a wire wheel on the grinder or something and clean up everything to get a nice finish in here. So you can see I've cut the hole for the passenger side exhaust. The reason I've ground around is that I'm going to put kind of like a picture frame around it just to help strengthen it up. I've ground round all of that. So that's going to be two flat sections welded in. Same with that. And I have sort of ground back all the edges on there as well, but I'm going to leave that till last. I need to fix that little bit there, which is where the old engine mount was, so it pulled out a bit of that metal. I'm just going to lay some welds on that, I think, and cover the hole up. And I've kind of ground back above my engine mounts and some of the welds there, just so that I can strengthen it up. I'm going to put a piece across the top and then weld sort of like a bracket to the top of the chassis rail as well, hopefully on both sides. And that should strengthen up those engine mounts no end. So yeah, I'm just going to start kind of cutting and fabricating up all these little bits, and I'll kind of film as much as I can. So this is how I sort of start fabricating. So I cut it out of cardboard, kind of got a rough shape. That bit there is going to have to be a flat and a flat. That's easy. I can just cut those out afterwards. That goes underneath there because I didn't quite cut that right up there, but I can use my grinder after I've welded those bits in to cut that back to this bit and then weld that as well. So now that I've got that, I've got my line where it kind of creases. I can go to my flat piece of metal with this, which is over here. Nice thick sheet steel. And I can find the most cost efficient way to kind of place it, which is probably there. And then draw around it, cut it out. So I'll start cutting that bit out. Now I'll need to bend it down that crease in the vise. Keep on offering up to the car until I've got a piece of metal that's going to fit in that gap. Right then, I've got that kind of close enough. You'll have to see what it looks like when it's in there, really. I'm going to have to tack it in a few places and then kind of hammer it around a little bit just to try and get it all nice and straight and welded all along. So, yeah, start by trying to tack it in place and then we will fit it in properly. Right, that needs cleaning up a bit, but it looks quite good. I think that looks alright. Well done. Perfect, but they're good enough. When I say not perfect, with gasless MIG welding you get these little pockets of flux that pop through, but it's only like spot welding something in, so I'm not that bothered. It's all going to get a coat of paint and whatever, so it'll look great. So yeah, that's all my time today. I'll be back to finish kind of all this welding off, hopefully in one more full day work on the car. Obviously I had to remove the engine and do all kinds of stuff this morning, so I didn't get a full day just welding. Hello, welcome back. I've got a couple of hours in the garage today on a night shift tonight, so I want to just try and progress some of these holes and bit of fabrication and stuff. So I've started off this morning by making a template out of card for the passenger side, and I've stenciled that out onto a piece of metal. I'll show you kind of the plan. So you can see that fits in there nicely, follows all the contours and stuff. So I'm happy with that. So I've drawn that out onto this piece of metal here. So now I need to cut it out, offer it up to the car, and we'll see this is nice thick steel. So I use for all the chassis repairs and stuff. So yeah, let's do that. Right, that's kind of made and is roughly in shape. So I'm not going to be able to clamp it in any way. Well, I probably could somehow, but I can't think of the way to do it. So I'm going to have to hold it in the right place and tack it, and then kind of use the hammer and screwdrivers and things just to kind of get it into the right position. So I'm going to get it wedged in there at the moment. Looks quite good. Obviously, I'm going to dress it all up with the grinder in the end. I just need to pull that back that way and hold it in place when I try and weld. So I'll stick you on a time lapse and I'll try and get this secured into place. There you go, that one's kind of half repaired. I've ground the tops of the welds off, I've left everything else. I'm going to be coming in and prepping this whole engine bay anyway. I think that looks quite good, managed to follow the contours and everything. So now we need to do that gap there, which is a little bit more of an awkward angle. I'm going to go inside the car a little bit. Keep it as straight as possible. So yeah, reasonably successful that, so I'm quite happy. Yeah, let's fix this and then we can move on to the rest of the engine bay. So I've made that piece, it's kind of just resting in there. I'm gonna do what I did last time, kind of tack it and then kind of just like force it into shape and then we'll weld it up. I've run out of welding wire. Fantastic. So yeah, I think that's it for the welding for today. I'll have to carry on with it after my night shifts and go to the shops and buy some welding wire. But I will just clean this up a little bit in the meantime. I'll show you kind of ish what it looks like. I've literally got like, I don't know, 6-7 inches of weld left to do, which is really annoying, isn't it? And I could have finished that whole little bit there, but never mind. I'll just clean it up a little bit and then I'll show you. There you go. It's taking shape anyway. You can see where I got up to with the welder and the wire ran out, so that was good. Starting to get there. But yeah, I'm going to go and get some, well, I'm going to get a shower because I'm filthy again. Then I'm going to get some sleep for my night shift. And I will, well, yeah, I'll see you when I see you, really. It'll be a few seconds for you, but it'll probably be a week or so for me now. Yeah, I'll see you then, though. Good morning. Now, for you, it's been a few seconds. For me, it's been a good week. We've been away as a family to our caravan in Anglesey, so that was lovely. I've just spent a good kind of hour and a bit this morning tackling my jungle of a back garden. So now looking nice, everything's starting to flower. But now it's time to get back on this MGBs engine bay. Now I've got 3 days, I know, 3 days in the garage on the trot. So I'm hoping to get loads done. It's actually Monday today and I didn't release an episode tonight for the first time in a while, which makes me feel bad, but I didn't really have anything to release and family takes priority. So we're hoping to get a nice big episode for next week with some really good progress. So let me show you what I've got to do. Now, you will remember more than me because it's not been as long for you. But basically, I need to finish that weld up there. I've got some new welding wire now. I need to stiffen those up, put like almost like a picture frame around them, fix that little hole there from where the old engine mount was. And I've got some steel, 3mm thick steel on order. It should be here today or tomorrow to fix this cross member. And then I'm going to start removing all the old wiring and stuff that I don't need. So I'm probably going to keep the brake lines in place and take them up. But that fuel line I don't need anymore. I'll show you my plans for that in a future episode. And I'm going to take off some of the other bits and bobs that I don't need anymore. So yeah, I'm just going to start kind of fabricating up and just rip into it really, see what I can get done today. And I'm hoping I might even be able to get this engine bay in primer, maybe even paint by the end of this episode. I don't know. Things in this garage have a tendency to last or take longer. I can't get my words out today, can I? Things in this garage have a tendency to take longer than I expect. But I've only got a few things to fabricate up, so hopefully it won't take too long. So let's get going. That's that weld complete there. Yeah, I've run out of grinding belts from my little belt grinder, so they arrive tomorrow. So I'm gonna give some of the welding a little break. And what I'm gonna do instead is try and sort the engine bay out with all these cables and wires and all sorts that are kind of here and there. So you can see this kind of bird's nest of wiring here. Now, some of which I need or want to keep, and some of which I do not, because I don't want to rewire the whole car. I want to try and put my ECU in line with it on a separate circuit. So I've got the wiring diagram down there. I'm just going through everything, just seeing what I need and what I don't need, and what I can kind of pull. I'm going to remove everything and kind of put it in a bag and get it out the way. But I want to label everything up. So it's going to be quite boring for you to watch. So I'm going to put you on a time lapse, and it might be a few hours for me, but hopefully it'll be 10 seconds for you. And I'm going to try and sort all this out. Wiring is not my forte. It's quite overwhelming, actually. But I'm just going to try and systematically go through it. And I'm going to get some masking tape and a pen and just try and label everything that I take off of what I think it is and does. I want to take my ECU from the starter relay that's here already, because that's got a permanent live and a switch live that I can run quite easily into the car and find my ECU from it. So if I can leave everything that I still need on the MG, like the headlights and the indicators and everything, run by the original wiring loom, and then take my kind of input from that starter relay that's already here. I might need to put a new starter relay in that's a bit beefier potentially, but I'll worry about that further down the line. So yeah, I'm just going to go through everything, label everything up, and try and get it up out the way and clear this whole engine bay so that I can clean it properly and hopefully get it ready to sort of give it a dust over with paint after I've finished the welding. Right, that's all the wiring kind of tucked up out the way, all labelled and stuff. I wanted to take the heater box out. I figured out that it's much more difficult than it looks. You've got to go under the dash and disconnect a load of things from under there as well, which I don't want to do. So the heater box is going to stay in, and I'm going to kind of refurbish it separately and then tape it all up and stuff. Just how much stuff do you go after? Because I could spend another few hours getting under the dash or taking the dash out and unclipping all the heater things and stuff, and they're just taking so much away from the car that it's just going to be more and more daunting to put it all back together. So as per the theme of this car, I've tried to keep it pretty much as kind of intact as possible and kind of disconnect things as I'm going, because then I think if sometimes you just strip a car completely to the shell, it becomes too big of a task to put it back together and it never gets done. So that's what I don't want to happen. I'll show you kind of what's left to do. So you can see the engine bay looking a lot more empty now. So that's staying. I'm going to kind of clean it up and kind of mask it off and paint it all up separately. Same with this. So you can see it's just got a bit of surface rust on it and stuff. That needs cleaning out in there. I've taken the actual fan motor off. This needs to come out. That's just the oil pressure kind of sender. I'm not going to use that anymore. It's all going to be electronic. That, which is the speedo cable, needs to come out. And then I need to debate to myself whether to take all these copper brake lines off or not. If I can take them off in one go, I might. But if not, I might leave them on. I've not decided yet. But yeah, I'm just ticking along with it. Right, there you go. So I've removed the clutch kind of pipe from there because I'm going to need a new one of those anyway. I've kind of taken that out there and spaced it out so that I can paint in behind it. I've cleaned all this up. Obviously, it needs completely cleaning. I think I've decided the chassis legs are going to be black down and around now, and then these wings here are going to be body colours, as with the bulkheads also going to be body coloured. But everything from the chassis rail down is going to be black, as well as the cross member and stuff. I think it's just going to look better. So yeah, I'm just going to carry on with cleaning up. Probably get the grinder in here with a flapper disc or something on it, just to start getting it down to bare metal. I'll just crack on, I suppose. Right, that's looking loads better. Not perfect yet, I've still got some more work to do. Once I've got my belt files here, I had a couple left, but they were really rubbish ones, so they didn't last long. So now that's as tidied up as kind of I'm going to get it for now. I need to come and do the final kind of get everything perfect once I've got those belts for the file grinder. Now I'm going to get on with doing some more welding. Just some of the fixes, like where that engine mount pulled out, the old engine mount. I'm probably going to strengthen up these engine mounts that I've currently got, put some bracing on them or something. I'm going to decide as I'm going to do it. And then the front cross member after that. And then the final thing will be those frames around those holes in the inner wings. So yeah, let's crack on with doing something. So I've mocked up this plate here to go on top of the engine mount on the passenger side. So I'm going to cut that out and weld it in. There's my finished plate. Chamfered so I can get some nice welds on it. So let's put that in. Right, I'm carrying on my mission to try and make these engine mounts a little bit stronger. So I'm going to put a cross bracing in from that plate that I've just welded on the top that goes across the chassis rail and welds either side. So it's supported from the chassis rail and a little bit on the wing as well. It's going to be like a little wedge. And I've already made it for the passenger side, so let me show you. So I've profiled it around everything. I need to come and grind everything back, but as you know, I've not got my grinder. So it's going to weld across the side here, across there, down, all the way on both sides. That should, if you imagine, when the engine mount wants to do that, that should bring all of that into the structure of the engine mount. So I'm going to do it on that side, and then I'm going to do the same, or try and do the same for that side. It's going to be a bit more difficult. So let me tack that in place, and then I'll weld it up. There you go. One of those welds has got to be all right, right? That should give loads more strength to those engine mounts, shouldn't it? Now I'm going to try and do the same on this side, but you can see there's the lip, so I'm going to have to come up over the lip and do it that way. I've not got much metal left, to be honest, but I'm going to try my best to fabricate something up with what I've got. It's getting late and I'm very warm. I've made a little spacer I'm going to weld in now to bridge that gap on the frame, which I'll show you. So there you go, there's my little spacers. I'm going to weld that in, and then I can put my wedge on top of that. Obviously I'll have to profile it a little bit, but I'm just going to spray underneath that with some weld through primer, just because I'm not going to be able to get to it then, am I? So spray underneath of it, stick that down, weld, and I'll give you an update. There's that wedge made and clamped into position, so let's weld it up. Wow. So, engine mounts now stronger. Looks a bit Keith Robinson, but definitely the engineering there supports that should stop. Yeah, I don't know, but it's definitely stronger. So there's passenger side and driver's side. It's definitely utilising more metal to mount them, isn't it? So that's got to be good. I've got to stiffen up the actual mount itself next. Well, I'm going to do that tomorrow now. I'm going to put something from here down, make a little kind of triangulation from there to there on both of them. And I'll probably do something with that gearbox mount as well. Yeah, loads of progress today. I've missed being able to have a full day in the garage. It's been good. I'm shattered now though. I'm not used to it. So I'm going to call it a night, and I will see you bright and early in the morning to carry on. Good morning. So it is still morning. It's very early. So I can't really make too much noise yet. But I thought I'd show you just a couple of things I did. Well, one thing really that I did last night after I said bye to you lot. So I just lifted that up and scraped off all the old kind of sealant and stuff from underneath the heater box, and then sprayed it with some acid etch primer, so I can put some silicone or sealant of some sort underneath that, put it back down and bolt that back in, and then leave that alone. I think I'm going to start today by making some templates for this front cross member to weld in as well. Yeah, I think I'll start by trying to find some silicone for that, just because it's not noisy for this time in the morning. So yeah, let's do that. So I found this kind of like foam double-sided tape I think that'll do the job along those bits there. I'll just have to put a punch or something through to find the holes, etc. But yeah, I'm going to just install some of that. Well, there you go. That's kind of put into place. I've left this one loose because I still need to put the clips on the back, but I need to clean the top of it up. So yeah, I'm going to start templating out this front cross member. Ready to weld some bits and bobs in. So that was my cardboard template. It kind of goes like that. And the car, now this is 3mm thick steel. And there's it drawn out on it. So I'm going to cut that out, score down these lines here so that I can fold them. And it's going to kind of hopefully make a little bit of a box. That's the plan anyway. Well, I've made that kind of plate. That 3mm steel obviously is hard to bend, so I've had to trim it a little bit more than I wanted to. So I'm going to have to do a few different kind of shapes and welds and stuff, but never mind. I'll show you kind of what it looks like. Now, it's not perfect, and I need to get it to fit in a little bit better, but there you go. That's going to be like that. So I'm going to have to hold it in place to tack it in the first place, and then I'll put some welds around it. Well, I think that looks all right. And it's made out of one solid sheet, so it should be nice and strong. I'm just going to put a weld up the corner, and then obviously weld around all the edges. So yeah, I'm going to kind of try and set myself up to weld now. I'm going to try and get you in somehow to watch. Right, so one side of the front cross member is now all done. Really tricky welding in these kind of cramped spaces and stuff. I don't know if you could tell on the time lapses, but yeah, really, really tricky. And it doesn't lead to the cleanest of looking welds because you just can't get I just can't get my kind of welding gun in right. But they're strong, and if anything, I've put too much weld on. I've grinded it all back anyway. So I'll show you what it looks like. That's what it looks like. I can't get anything in to grind there. And to be honest, that was one piece of metal. Because I put a little grind mark in there to bend it on, I just wanted to shore it up a little bit. So that's just a little kind of weld there. Everything else is good. So now it's this bit. Now, I don't know if you remember or if you've watched one of the previous episodes, but the sump has like a little bit of a recess down here. I'll show you on the actual engine. Just there. So this bit's got to be lower than the rest of it on the front cross member. And now that bit fits here. Roughly anyway, here. That's why this is further back. So my idea for this is to make a box on the same level as this, the whole way across to here, and weld it to this actual wall, and it'll be left with like this bit here will be left on its own, and it'll be welded inside if I can get to it. That's the plan anyway. It's going to be extremely awkward, to be honest. Right, so there's my template. That's the piece of cardboard I used. Kind of fits in like that. So I'm going to cut that out, bend it along that line, like that, and we'll try and see what it looks like. There you go, that bit's in, so now I need to finish that end cap and that gap there. Whew. I'm not complaining, but it's really warm today. Having a little heat wave in the UK, which is good, apart from when you're welding and grinding, which is the worst time for it to be a heat wave, to be honest. But we're making some good progress. Not quite as quickly as I wanted to, as per usual. Not without the want of trying, but it's just, yeah, just everything just takes a little bit longer. Everything's just a little bit more awkward than you think it's going to be. But we're getting really close to kind of finishing off that front cross member. And I'll clean everything up, mask off, and paint all that bottom bit in black, stone chip under seal. I think that'll make that look really good. So yeah, I'm gonna have 5 minutes, and then I will crack on with making those other two like end cap bits. I'm hoping that's going to be strong enough. I put a lot of weld down, got some really good kind of penetration into both bits of metal, so I think it is. It's really thick steel as well. That 3mm is extremely strong, so it should be okay. Right, that's that little bit made, so I'm going to weld it across the bottom first and then just hammer the top in just to fit a little bit better, and then weld it all around. It looks good. I think that looks quite good. Not perfect as per usual, but functional and strong. So yeah, nice. I need a little 5 minutes before I carry on doing something else. I think the next step's going to be kind of cleaning up the rest of the engine bay. I'm hoping to get some sort of paint down today, potentially. Might take off that steering rack to give me more access. But yeah, it's looking good. Right then, I've cooled down and I'm ready to crack on. Now, I do want to do some paint today, but I kind of forgot about something, which is the holes in these inner wings need reinforcing. So that's the next job. That's make the picture frame that I was talking about for these inner wings. It's not going to be easy, this, as per usual. The passenger side probably is. That's just a simple box, so that's fine. The driver's side has got a lot of shape to it, so I'm going to have to be quite careful how to make it. So I think I'm going to start with that one and get it out of the way. Make a template out of like paper almost, because there's so many bends in it that I'm going to then transfer onto a piece of metal, as I usually do, and then kind of clamp it in place. Now this has been a little bit trickier than I thought. So I've got this clamped into place. It looks quite good, but that gap there is because that's a straight line and that isn't, essentially. So I'm going to have to, you see I've drilled holes to kind of spot weld it, as well as doing the seam welding on this side. I'm going to do the spot weld and do the seam, and then I'm going to come in with the grinder and cut that to the right shape to suit this. I think that's the best kind of way to do it. I think the first step is going to be to get this in place. Now I've sprayed underneath it with some weld through primer. So yeah, it's just going to be a case of welding it in. Right, there's that kind of picture frame. I'm going to be coming over with some seam sealant and stuff, so I'm not too bothered what it looks like. Oh, the welds have stuck anyway. I think I'm going to put some of that like heat-proof foil across these bits anyway, because that's where the exhaust comes out. So all that will be covered, because it's not the best looking thing in the world, is it? I'm going to do the other side tomorrow now. I'm absolutely exhausted. It's so hot today. I've run out of energy. So I'll see you bright and early in the morning to carry on with the other side. Hopefully, I'm not going to get the whole thing painted in this episode, I don't think, but I might be able to do the bottom bit in the under seal and kind of prep the top bit or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'll see you in the morning. 27.5 degrees in here. No wonder I'm hot. Good morning. The hay fever is bad today, so I'm probably not going to talk as much as I usually do, which some of you might enjoy actually. I'm just going to get on with doing stuff. So I'm going to put some under seal or some seam sealant around those welds I did yesterday in the wheel arch, and then I'm going to make the little frame for the passenger side as well. And then we're just going to start cleaning after that and get all the kind of grinding dust and everything out and clean up all any rust that's left and stuff. And yeah, potentially get like a coat of primer on it or something. I want to come in and do a little bit of filling on some of the little dents I've done and things in the engine bay. Don't want to make it perfect. It's an engine bay, it's not the outside of the car, and I don't want to spend too long on it. The outside of the car took weeks, a lot of which I'm probably going to have to redo, to be honest, because I've done this in completely the wrong order. I did the paintwork before I put the engine in. Ever is my wisdom, but never mind. So yeah, I'm just going to get on with kind of doing stuff. There you go, that's all under sealed up. Now underneath there are some beautiful TIG welds that are all perfect. Well, that's what I'll be telling everyone anyway. Now time for here. So I've made this little frame. So because this is a flatter, I should be able to do it out of one solid piece, which will look better, weld easier, fit better, etc. So I'm going to cut that out of metal, put some holes in it again to do some plug welds, and then weld it all the way around the outside. The reason why I've not undersealed the frame completely, obviously there's a gap there that I'm not going to weld because it'll just end up all wrinkly and look crap. But I think I'm going to put some, like almost like, I don't know if you can buy it, so I don't know if someone in the comments can tell me. You know how like a door seal goes around the outside like that? I want to buy something that's heat proof that goes around the outside of that to protect it, the manifold essentially, from rubbing against any metal and stuff. But it needs to be heat proof. So I'm sure something will be invented for that, but I just can't seem to search for the right terms to come up with it. So yeah, if anyone can let me know what that is, that'd be great. Here, I am going to make that and weld it in. Right, if you can see it through the clamps, that is the frame kind of in place. I've drilled holes to spot weld it. I'm going to do the top first because that's where it's kind of best fitting. And then I just need to close the gap in here with clamps when it comes to it. But yeah, I can start welding that in now. That's all welded in, it's just drying. So I'm gonna let it dry and then I'll put some seam sealer on, similar to this one. In the meantime, I've been looking at my engine mounts and I want to try and shore them up a little bit, make them a bit stronger. Now I've run out of your general steel, so this is what I've got now. So I've made this little strengthening piece there. That bit's not going to be as big, it's just to clear the weld because I don't want to grind off any strength. Basically, I'm going to weld that in from here all the way down to the tip. There. Now that should put some more kind of strength into this bit coming down, so it'll really, really help improve the rigidity of that mount with some nice thick steel as well. Yeah, I'll do it for this one, weld it in, and then I'll do exactly the same for the one that's currently on the engine, which I'll have to take off. So yeah, I'm going to get this in the vise, cut it out, dress it up, put it on, weld it up. Another really, really warm day today. Still in the morning, 23 degrees in the garage. So it's hot work, but we've got this kind of mocked up now. Looks very odd, I agree, but it's going to add a lot of strength. Little gap at the back there, so that I can get a nice weld in. I've chamfered underneath that side and that side. As I'm clamping it in, it's a little bit that way, so I need to tack it on this side and bring it over first. But yeah, I'll get on with welding that. I still need to clean it up, but there's some nice strong welds now, I think. I melted those, doesn't matter. I've actually got rubber ones on the way. I think they're arriving today, actually. Just to give myself a little bit more kind of movement on the engine, because those poly bushes were a bit too hard. Yeah, that's definitely added a lot of strength. I want to profile that just so it looks better. Get it completely flush, but that looked good. So that's kind of ready to, I'm not going to grind any of them back. It's ready just to paint after I've cleaned it up. Ooh, hay fever. Let's try and do exactly the same to the driver's side engine mount. As I said before, that's still on the engine at the moment, so I need to quickly whip that off, and then we can strengthen that one up as well. And there we go. Clamped up, let's just weld it into place. There's the other one for the other side. We're very hot because I've just cut them all out. Now these engine mounts are successfully beefed up, let's finish off that inner wing. So just while that was drying, seam sealant, I've made these little ribs here for the gearbox mount, just to strengthen it up. Now, I already had this bit, but those plates, I want something just to join them together because there's two plates welded to each other here. So I'll do a weld across there and a weld across there. That'll be bridging the gap there. I know it's really thin, but it's still kind of, I don't know, 3-4 mil thick. So it's still going to add a lot more strength to this gearbox mount, especially when it's all tied in. So I'm going to weld all this together now. It is so hot. I am pouring with sweat. Grinding, welding, all the hot jobs I always pick to do just as the weather turns good. I had all the winter to do all this type of stuff. It is what it is. So I'm battling the heat today. So the welder's overheating, only lets me weld for like 5 minutes at a time and then shuts off for 15 minutes, so that's good. My camera on my other phone, which I use for most of my garage like time lapses and stuff, is overheating and only capturing a couple of seconds of footage. That's good, isn't it? So I wanted to kind of show you where I'm actually up to, because I don't think I've been filming it, to be honest. So there's one rib on that side, kind of all welded in. Now I've done this one on this side, and if you can see, all welded in, nice and strong. Again, doesn't look great because I've got this flux core welder, which is impossible to get a good looking weld with, but it does weld hot and strong. So I just need to finish off this side now. I've not got much wire left and I've not got any more, so let's hope that's enough. What's it now? 28.1 degrees. So yeah, I'm just going to wait another 15 minutes for that to cool down, and then hopefully I can finish this off and I'm done welding then for the day. I'm just going to start cleaning and kind of paint prepping and things, because I've had enough of the heat of the welder and stuff. So yeah. By the way, I know there'll be Americans, Australians, etc. now shouting at the TV going, "That's not hot." It is. It is in England, where it's like 100% humidity. It's very hot. Some nice and strong welds there. That should give that kind of Gearbox cross member a lot more strength, especially with the high strength bolt that I bought for it as well. Let's just hope that hasn't warped anything. I don't think it shouldn't have done. Everything still looks nice and level anyway. Sometimes when you add so much heat, it can start to kind of bow it up like that. Now what you can do is put another weld just along the top of each thing here, just to even it up. But with them being flat in the first place and clamped, I think it should be fine. I have cleaned the engine bay of all the debris that was in there, and I've given it a little bit of a vac out. So now we need to kind of get the Scotch-Brite and sandpaper and stuff and just give everything another good clean and prep before I can sort of spray some primer down. I'll show you kind of what it looks like now because it looks quite good. I think once I've undersealed all around all the edges and primed it all, etc., I think it'll look really, really good. Now, as you can probably tell, that wasn't a proper kind of paint prep at all. It was just getting rid of all the grease and the dirt and stuff on the seams mostly. I'm going to come in and spray some etch primer on all the seams that I'm going to put seam sealer on. And that way it's just kind of done then, isn't it? And I can come over and do the rest of the paint and stuff in next week's episode. So yeah, I'm going to come in, spray the chassis legs, and then spray some primer down every seam that I'm going to put seam sealer on. Then we can let that dry, which hopefully won't take too long in this heat, to be honest, maybe 15-20 minutes. Right, so I've had a beer, which was nice, and I've let that dry. So now I can apply the seam sealant to it. There was people watching saying, cover the paintwork up, you're going to get primer all over it. Yeah. There's so much crap, dirt, dust, grinding, metal shards, all sorts over this paint that it's going to need a really good machine polish. And even that might not fix it. I might have to do or send it to a body shop because I ain't painting it again. So it is what it is. When I come to actually paint the engine bay properly and not just prime the little bits for this seam sealant, I will mask the whole car. And I'll probably get it out and give it a really good wash first, to be honest. I'll do that all in next week's episode, I think. So I need to apply some masking tape so that I can get all these nice, crisp, clean lines with the seam sealant. And then I need to go around and seam seal all of it. So that's what it looks like at the moment. It's just like stuff like this. Like I want to come in and put some filler over that and stuff. But yeah, it'll do for now. And there, look, like where there was obviously still some debris or something that's caused it not to stick properly. So yeah, that's not the final thing. It was just to get some primer on all these seams so that it goes in the seam and then you seam seal over it. The rest of it's probably going to come off again, to be honest. So yeah, I'm going to get my masking tape in and start kind of masking all these bits around here so that I can get some nice crisp lines with that seam sealant. So I'll do that and then I'll show you what it looks like. So I've kind of masked up the important bits. To be honest, I got bored masking everything up. So yeah, I'm just going to get on with doing some seam sealant and do it as neatly as I can. And then hopefully it looks good. Right, I think that looks all right. Definitely a good starting point to get the engine bay all finished up. It's not perfect, but as per this project, I'm not that bothered. As long as it's serving the purpose, which is being a seam sealant, that's all good. So I'm sat here in the garden, just enjoying the last little bits of this nice blue sky with a cold snack. And I've just been thinking about everything that I've kind of achieved this episode. And you know what? I mean, it's taken 3 weeks to film this one because I've been kind of working a lot and we've been on holiday and a few different bits and bobs. But it's been worth it. We've made massive progress. I look back at the first video, or the little clip I filmed of making that little bracket for the steering column, and yeah, it feels like a long time ago that. And I will install that at some point. The engine bay is now ready for proper kind of paint and getting it all looking good. I think I finished the fabrication on this car. Finally finished welding and grinding and making noise, basically. So I'm sure my neighbours will be ecstatic about that. But yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for watching, especially if you've made it this far. And if you have made it this far, why not just subscribe? Over 50% of you that watch aren't subscribed, so if you could subscribe, that'd be great. And yeah, drop a comment on the video, like it, and I'll see you next week, hopefully, to paint this engine bay and getting it all looking really good. And then we can look at kind of doing the final installation of this engine and start all the fun stuff like trying to get it started and things after I've done all the wiring, which I'm not looking forward to. Anyway, I'll think about that in the meantime. Yeah, see you next week.